will take you to the tree.
Nigerian singer Ola Onabule on stage and singing. It is the place where he likes to be the most. At home, in both Nigeria and the UK, Onabule has given a lot of thought to what the African continent means to him and what his hopes for it are.
Some will take love far from those who need it.
Your music encompasses a huge range of topics. It can be socio-political commentary, very personal songs about your own personal experiences.
Yes.
But what are the sort of underlying themes and messages that when people hear your music, you'd like them to take away?
I think I'm very keen for Africa to change its course, to find its way and you know, really find a way of standing shoulder to shoulder in the League of Nations. If I switch on the news and I see another sad story about Africa, you know, I wonder, I want to write a song that says, how come we haven't managed to get across the fact that repeatedly on United Nations happiest countries lists, the top 10 countries are almost always African. I mean, how come we don't get that story across? How come it's always the, you know, the representations of poverty and corruption and brutality?
Is there a particular song that you're thinking of when you say that? I mean, or are there...
Oh, there are a good few. On every album there'll probably be 2 or 3. My last album was entitled The Devoured Man. And to paraphrase, it's essentially the story of how African men get consumed by whatever's the temptation in front of them, when the temptation to sacrifice all for the common good always seems to be way down on the list. And I've always found that distressing, and so I've rehashed and repackaged that idea. But I'm also mindful of the fact that I live here, and I have to temper what I write and the way I imagine it's being perceived, because I'm not lording anything over anyone, nor am I finger wagging or telling. I'm just saying, you know, there's a diaspora out there who look back to home with probably more whimsy than the guys at home do, and we just want a beautiful fairy tale. We want a fairy tale that ends, that has a lovely arc to it, and they went through all of this and they struggled and they arrived at this nirvana, and it's all worked out fine, and they all lived happily ever after, I think is what most of the songs are about.
So how do you see your role? I mean, and do you feel then a sort of responsibility to develop as jazz in Nigeria, for example, or do you feel like there should be a contribution to, as you say, have Africa reach its fullest potential?
I think what I wonder about more than anything else is whether it really can only ever happen from within.
Yeah.
And every time I've thought, I know what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to go and do that, and I'm going to do that, I always temper it by imagining how it would be perceived from within.
Sure.
Because I have been 3 decades away from Nigeria, and you know, Nigerians are very diverse people. It's a very populous nation.
Yeah.
It must be the most complex thing to find a uniform message that you can deliver to all those people. If all I ever do is start a discussion between 2 Nigerians somewhere, ideas are powerful things. I mean, the Arabian Spring is the bloom, you know, from the seed of an idea that's just kind of done that. So maybe.
music, the lyrics, the subject matter really challenges the listener in a way that, you know, you're talking about complicated things. And that's not your typical pop music route. That's not, you know, or your conventional record company will go, yeah, that's the kind of topic I want to talk about.
Yes.
But I think that's what also is part of your appeal, that you are willing to tackle those more complicated subjects. And I'm wondering, what kind of response have you had from those people who are listening to these types of songs?
Well, the people who you know, who hear the songs tend to have a lot of questions. They want to know what my inspiration and motivation, you know, for putting the idea that way and so forth is. And that's as much as I want. I usually write a song because I found the idea provocative. And so I want it to go on and do its work and provoke others to question me if they get to me in person, or pass the idea on and say, check out what this guy's saying. What do you think? That's what I hope songwriting is. As
somebody who has gone through this experience of, you know, kind of carving out your own niche in the music world, what advice do you have, not just to aspiring musicians, but to those who are crossing over from other cultures? Patience, I suppose. I mean, not rushing to any conclusions. What I've done is I've tried very hard to make sure I give myself and everyone time and space, and just faith that it will all come out in the wash. I think that's just about enough. That's all we need.